Morning. Sorry I'm a little late. This is Educators Drinking Coffee. Um, and a little bit of a late start, but good morning. Welcome back. I've been gone for about almost a week. Today I'm drinking Dunkin' Donuts again. Um, it's it's pretty good. It uses a lot of cream and sugar, but it's not bad. It's a little bland today. So let me see. I need to make sure we are live on Facebook. Let me see. Oops. All right. I think we are live now. So, anyways, um, today just wanted to just really talk about. We got, at least for me myself here, our staff. We got through graduation. Um, um, really had a great opportunity to celebrate a lot of our, or mostly all our seniors. Hopefully, the parents appreciated. Um, it was hard work. We really, I tell you, behind the scenes, our custodians are second to none. Man, they put forth so much effort. And then other, teachers and staff that came along helping out. I mean, graduation was Thursday and Friday, but it started on Monday. Um, and we had some folks here for starting from Monday, making sure we had our everything ready, supplies, working out the details of the whole process went. So thank you to everyone who really helped out to make this graduation as best as possible. And seniors did the best we could. And I'm sure there was possibly other things we could have done, but really had a handful of people that really put forth a great effort. And I hope you appreciate it. It's not what we wanted, but we tried to do the best we can. So with that being said, just want to make sure here. Um, so where do we go from here? Hey, Miss Hudema, I hope I pronounced it right. Um, and Yeah, I mean, we just got to figure out where we go from here. We finished out the year remote learning. We need to figure out. Good morning, Miss Crutch. Um, um, and yeah, just trying to figure out as we end the year remote learning, where do we go here for next year? Um, and that there's so much unknown. Um, we're still trying to figure out what it's going to look like. Thank you. Um, that's to Ms. Hudema, um, pronouncing her last name. So I, I apologize because I probably mispronounced it every single time while we were in school. So, but now. And buenos días, madre. ¿Qué más? So yeah, trying to figure out. I think one of the things we have to look forward to is, I think this comes a time. It is the end of the year, and we need to reflect. We need to reflect how this whole year went. Reflect on the first half of the year, as it was traditional school, how that went, and then from that point forward, come March 13th, how that learning and how that took place. We have to almost get together, figure out a way with our staff and even beyond our particular school, and see what worked. Um, and maybe take the do's and don'ts, uh, best practices, these kind of things. We have to really have conversations about. I would love to know what some of you in your schools uh, are doing or planning to do come this summer to better be prepared for next year. Um, hopefully we're back here at school like we were in August of last year. But we have to be realistic that that may not be the case. Um, but one thing we do know, we do have remote learning days. So how we're going to do those remote learning days, and I think we have to look at best practices. I've said many times we should be having conversations with where I live, at least in North Carolina, with the North Carolina Virtual Public Schools, with community college, with universities about how they do their remote learning and figure out best practices, because they've been doing it for a while. We've been thrust into this kind of thing. So, it's just it's a lot to think about. But again, reflecting from my part as an administrator, what did I do that was effective? What did I did, I guess, that wasn't effective, didn't do that I should have? And I'm sure there's plenty of it. So we have to really be reflective during these times, so we can better prepare for the fall. And hang on. So sorry, get a little sidetracked here. But yeah, I've got to do that. I do think we need to, from my personal feeling, is really look at making sure all our students, or all our students that can have access to the internet, to remote learning, have it, and then have a plan for those that do not, because there's still going to be those that don't have access, equal access, or equitable access to remote learning. So we need to be contacting families, doing surveys, so we can be prepared from when that. Hey, Mr. Harold, good morning again. I know I can always count on you. So we can focus some of that energy, or know who to focus to when it comes to traditional paper and pencil learning to students who can do remote learning. And I think we have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared for. Good morning, Miss Melanie. Thank you for stopping by again this morning. So, see, how do we address those issues of lack of connectivity, lack of a device? And it's going to be a tough issue because, I'm sure there's going to be, cuts in just about every school district. And how do you find money for some of those things? I believe and I hope there's legislation that provides some of that support, but I know it's not going to be anywhere near the access that, or the amount that we need. Probably also now I work here in a rural area, but maybe trying to figure out how some of these local businesses. Good morning, Miss Hagman. And maybe partner with some of these local businesses to provide internet access. I mean, that's just one thing. I do have concerns because sometimes with some of these rural areas, parents would still need to travel a distance to hit the hotspots. And again, that's not completely equitable. But that may be an opportunity for kids to maybe once every couple of days or once a week can go to one of these areas to kind of check in. But they do most of their learning in paper and pencil. But we do need to create those partnerships. We need to talk to also have partnerships with some of our cell phone companies to help provide some of these hotspots. I know some school districts have done their buses as hotspots, but we should all be looking at this. I say because we have to be prepared that we're not going to start the year like we did last year. So, and just trying to figure out what some of you are doing, and where some of you all are as far as looking at next year, how the learning is going to be. A lot of this is, really dictated on our recovery throughout the state and what phase we're in. I believe we're in phase 2, and so right now we can only have 10 people inside the building. We can only gather as 25 people outside the building. So how do you do it? There's a lot of scenarios. I'll speak to, I guess, one of the scenarios in that I'm a little familiar with, and that is the one where you have students who come in the morning, probably from like 7 to 12, and another group from about 1 to 5, 1 to 6. That's a tough one. And I know that one a little bit because coming from Columbia, that is what happens in Columbia. There's 2 shifts per se. That's a way to kind of reduce the number of students in the building. I don't think personally that's enough for the size of schools. That even my school, that's a little over 700, that would solve the issue. That would help, but it wouldn't solve the issue. One of the other things that it can do is in Columbia, in many schools, the students do not rotate. The teacher is the one who rotates, and that could be a possibility. And I see that scenario more working with elementary. And then Miss Midge used to talk AB days is another one that's been thrown around. Yeah, that's right. Students come one day, one group of students, the next day come students. Again, to me, that helps. It's just the number of students, even again for a smaller school like us, who you would be talking about 350 plus students, having 350 plus students inside the building, you're really pushing, because the biggest issue there comes transitions. How do you transition students? And that's where I say if teachers rotate, that may help. But high school is a little different because all students go separate ways. You could create cohorts, and maybe that can help, but I don't know how much in high school. Again, I think the idea between maybe AB days and having teachers rotate instead of students, I think that would be a big help for elementary schools. It wouldn't solve everything, but I think it kind of starts heading that way. Middle schools gets a little tricky. Another one I've seen is where, we come to school. Let's say our freshman class comes to school A day, maybe sophomores freshmen come Monday, sophomores Tuesday, and juniors and then seniors on Thursday, and then everybody's virtual on Friday. But then the days that you're not in school is pretty much you're going virtual. That's a lot of virtual compared to face-to-face, but it may be just a possibility. When now you're only dealing with a little over 200 kids inside the building, and then maybe the classrooms can become smaller. Because I have seen, and I don't know if some of you have seen, where I think a school in Arizona put partitions kind of like cubicles, and they're all clear plastic, but still things are fuzzy on the other side of a plastic. I don't know how realistic that is to put in every classroom. If you're trying to do a presentation, the kids behind the plastic won't be able to see, all those kind of things. So we just, that is what they're doing in Australia. You talking about the partitions, the cubicles, or the kind of alternating days. The other thing I have seen is, because it is a lot harder. It's weird. It's harder for elementary kids to really learn virtually. I completely understand that. But I think management of them, or managing them and in a particular site, I think it's easier. Not that it's easy. Grades by days. Okay. And I think of the elementary kids, because again, you have an elementary school, you can overtake a middle school, and have middle school and high school be virtual, and the elementaries kind of spread them out to take the building of the elementary, building of the middle school, and you can spread the kids out. And again, and rotate the teachers, and you don't have that much eat lunch in the classrooms, those kind of things, and breakfast may be doable. But that leaves middle and high school being completely virtual, and that's a tough one. Again, I think we're all going to have to work with each other, because that may be a possibility where the elementaries. And I say that again, with elementary, it's easier to do this more social distancing teaching, I guess, with the elementary, but at the same time, it's easier to do that, but but the numbers, um, I feel like in high school we really need to also be in the classroom. It's tough. So, um, so Ms. Miz says face to face is better for students, without a doubt. Somehow they need to face to face to start. So many students stop and will be difficult starting. I agree. And imagine the freshmen. Imagine any kid from fifth grade jumping onto middle school to sixth grade. My daughter's going to be one of these incoming freshmen. And I can't imagine her starting her high school career virtually. I mean, how do you become part of the school? I mean, that's part of the thing of becoming part of this community is being in the building. And I agree with you 100%. We got to do the best we can for them to start face to face. Now that face to face may be like Ms. Hageman talked about by grades, like on that first day of school, kind of like you do pre-kindergartners. You start staggering them to school. You start with freshmen coming in the first day of school, then the sophomores, then the juniors, then the seniors. That way they get face to face. And I think we have to look at expectations. That's the other thing too. How do we look to hold kids more accountable? And I say that, but we have to make sure the quality of the product that we are providing is of quality, if that makes sense. Because if we're going to hold kids more accountable, if we're going to hold teachers more accountable, what we are delivering has to be quality product. And I go back to what I started at the beginning of today's broadcast. Let's reflect on how we did, how effective it was, what good practices are. We have to also look at the platforms we use. Is this the right platform for this, or do we need to shift to this? Here we have made a commitment to work with Canvas, and I'm glad we made that commitment early, because now we're working on getting teachers who have not used Canvas before familiar with it. We have to continue. Yeah, quality versus quantity. I agree with you on that. We have to. We can't have another virtual learning. Like, I don't want to say that it was. We just weren't as productive as we could have been, and really considering the circumstances. And I think we have to make sure, because we are going to be held accountable. I think that's part of this legislation that was passed. We do have to create a plan on the quality of virtual learning. So again, we have to start with reflecting on what we did previously. We cannot be doing all these different things. And you're right, consistency. He says we need consistency with all teachers using the same format for sure. Yeah. I have a parent. I'm a parent of a daughter going into ninth grade, one going into fourth grade. I can see, and I know, because having conversations with parents who are dealing with students, even in high school, but in different classes, using different platforms. And if we want the family to be engaged, we have to make it as parent friendly as possible, so they can support the teachers as much as possible. And we can also begin to increase the level of accountability at home. And I think that has to be, I think we have to set guidelines and expectations of when things are due, the way we need them to do it. Ms. Hageman says, teachers need support and resources. Many are not trained to teach virtually. That's the thing. And you hit the nail on the head. We are not prepared. Teachers haven't been trained, and you have great teachers who are face to face who have been struggling, during this virtual time, because it's not that easy just to do what you do face to face and then think you're just going to put it up on the screen and send it out. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, we know how much the person in front of the classroom affects the students, and we know how much we have to first provide a safe environment for the student before a student can learn. And that is a tough thing to do if we are starting virtually. I think teachers that had a good environment, that positive learning environment, good relationships with their students, we're probably a little bit more successful during these remote learning days, because students will in general will like to, trust that teacher and do feel like what the teacher's asking them to do is for their benefit. So students will be more out to continue to work. You're right, they're not trained for that. So what do? We need to collaborate with schools like yourself, like the North Carolina School of Math and Science, with the virtual public school, with community college, with universities that do remote, that have been doing this for a while. We haven't. What's been 3 months? I mean, we're no experts in this. Yeah, like sending a first grade teacher into a high school chemistry class. I agree. Hell, I'm sorry. Like sending myself into a chemistry. I can't tell you. I don't even know if I ever took chemistry, to be honest with you. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's you're at a loss. I was at a training for Canvas, and I was at a loss trying to um, navigate through Canvas, and I'm like, gosh, I mean, teachers have to be comfortable with that device. That's to me, that's part of the training that needs to happen right now during summer. How do we get teachers trained and feel comfortable? And they have to begin to, unpack those standards and see how we can remotely do them. But again, that process, I think, has to be worked out through with someone who's a specialist in remote learning. We are not. I think some teachers are able to do snippets of remote learning very well, but now when the possibility that it's going to be full time, half time, 3/4 of the time, that's a whole other animal. So, anyways, I'm coming up to about almost 8:30. We got to get going. I know we have ourselves a PLC here to wrap up the year today. I got to meet with the admin here today. I'll figure out where we go from here. But yeah, let's keep talking. I'll be in again tomorrow, and I'll probably want to talk a little bit more about this. I'm probably going to continue. Thursdays is going to be my day in Spanish. I really had some positive feedback on that, and my goal is to try to hit the Hispanic community, and any of you educators that are out there, or parents. One thing that I want to focus on, and even though, like I said, it's going to be a Spanish kind of broadcast on Thursdays, shoot me any information that you think, whether you're a parent or something that you feel is important for parents that are students coming into high school need to know, because I think that's one of the gaps that we have, at least with the Hispanic being a product of that. As a Hispanic parent, how do I help my child achieve the goal of going on to college, or going on to university, or going on to tech school, or the workforce? What do I need to get out of high school to be successful? So I'm doing my own research. So on Thursday, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But, something as simple as, parents focusing on GPA, parents focusing on the quality of classes they're taking, the rigor, whether it's honors, whether it's AP, whether it's college courses, those things I want them to understand, because as we know, just getting a high school diploma doesn't mean you're prepared straight to go into university. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of coursework that that is required by the state of North Carolina, that in order to enter college, you just don't meet those standards. So I want to make parents available, and it goes to not even just Hispanic parents, but just families out there that may be the first generation of family members going on to college, and you just don't know exactly what he or she needs to be successful. So that's what I'm going to dedicate Thursdays to, and like I said, it's going to be in Spanish. I'm going to try to get more interviews here coming in. I said last week was focused on graduation. Here this week, I'm just kind of getting back in the groove of this. So I do appreciate those of you stopping by this morning with your feedback, and I'm glad we're all kind of feeling on the same page as far as the preparedness of of what we need to be when it comes to fall. So thank you again. This is Educators Drinking Coffee. I apologize. I have some great coffee that I'm going to make sure I have tomorrow. It's called Don Francisco's. It is Colombian coffee. My sponsor sent it to me, so it is delicious. I'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. So this is Educators Drinking Coffee. Thank you all for taking part. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.